Hi, everyone. This is Ray Luskin of the Creative Activists Turning Pain to Purpose, a gathering place for people working at the intersection of healing, creativity, and social change. Here, survivors, healers, artists, educators, and change agents come together to share their stories, their healing tools, and explore how creative expression can heal our deepest wounds and spark solutions. Before I introduce our guest, Kathleen Brigidina, I have a poem. You know, I always like to share a poem. So this is When Water Remembers. In the quiet places where stories once hid in the dark, a new language rises. Brushstroke, heat, heartbeat, the soft pulse of earth listening. Here, survivors become storytellers, pain becomes petition, and every creative act is a prayer for the world we dream. Today, we gather to honor what was broken and to celebrate what refuses to stop blooming. So I am very excited today to introduce our guest, Kathleen, and she is an author, illustrator, educational educator, environmental cultural change agent. She's an eco artist, a water ceremonialist, creative doula, cultural activist, and survivor. For more than 3 decades, she has woven art, ancestral wisdom, ritual, and ecological healing into a path that helps individuals and communities reconnect to earth, spirit, and their own creative power. Kathleen, thank you so much for being here and all you bring to the world.
Thank you, Ray. It's great to be here.
I have to say, Kathleen and I met through a mutual friend, through Lori Marshall of Singing Tree, and I've interviewed Lori a couple times, and I love the work, and we connected. I mean, at a heart spirit, there is no, there's no accidents. We were meant to connect. So I'm so excited for you to be here, and I think I'm just going to dive in. Um, I know you're a survivor, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on that, but I'd love for you to tell people how that has influenced the work you've been doing over the years and your own healing journey, because you're a Reiki healer, you're this, you are it girl, you do it all. So I would love for you to share some of that.
Well, it's hard to separate it from, the rest of our lives. I'm sure many people know that, but it feels that there's been a lot of surviving going on with a lot of us, since we were children and children today and all sorts of things, right? And for me, it's always felt like this very connected piece that I used my creativity when I was young to, by writing or drawing, is a way of not only escaping, but also of expressing, because wasn't able to express myself fully any other way. So, I didn't put a lot of thought into it. It's just a very natural thing for me to write and to draw and be outside and connect with nature. And I just know that um, a lot of my poetry and a lot of my writing was very specifically about things that weren't the happiest of things. My paintings were the opposite. My
I
paintings
love
were
that.
like all this beauty and everything and sort of a dream world in a way. And now that I've gotten older, I see, the patterns of my life and how they've come and how they're interwoven with the creativity that came through me. It was, to me, creativity is like an angel on our shoulders, always waiting for us. And we're all creative and we just make choices of what we're going to use our creativity for, is what I believe. It's not about the techniques. Those can be trained or taught or learned. Some people are born with them. I'm not. I just was born knowing that I love to do it. I love to scribble. I love to make mud pies. You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
and
right.
yeah. So I think that's the best way for me to put it into a nutshell, I guess.
Okay, I love that. Well, it's interesting because from the time I was a little kid. I had Miss Ray's art school for my sister, her and her friends. I was the eldest, so art was such a big part of my life in so many pieces and parts of it. And, and I had a double whammy, it was like, for me, it was like, okay, I love my art. And that's why my grandfather, he had me come to his art studio. He was going to teach me to paint, and then he abused me there. So it was like, oh, how
Mhm.
do I deal with this? Because it is still a passion of mine. I think I stopped myself though from going as far as I could have gone in the art field because of it.
Mhm.
So had to
Mhm.
work through a lot of issues going through college and all that kind of stuff. So, and I saw too that you went to the Art Institute, so I attended a lot of classes there, and yeah, but I didn't get my degree from there. I think our
Yeah.
paths have crossed over the years in many ways.
Yeah, that's really funny. Yeah, small world, small
Small
world.
world it is. So let's talk about, I when I was reading your bio, you were talking about how being a mother influenced your sense of purpose and the legacy you want to leave. And why don't we talk about that a little bit before we get into some of the other things?
Oh, yes. Well, my girls, my daughters, I also had two sons. They were born too early to survive, but I just want to mention them. And but my two daughters are grown and beautiful and successful and happy, and they're 26 and 32. Bridgie is 32 and Erin is 26. And I mean, like I say, creativity is the angel on your shoulder, but they are the two halves of my heart, and there's no denying that to me, and no matter what we go through, and we have been through difficult times in the last couple of years, that it just shines through even more so when that happens. And um, you know, it's a very similar feeling actually when I create and when I'm with my girls. I just love those two things in my life so much.
Oh, beautiful. Well, let's talk about, you talk about creativity as a sacred force.
Mm.
How explain that to people, and how did that piece of the art become your pathway, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah, I usually explain it from the place of second grade, and the teacher asks everybody to draw their astrological sign, which is quite funny because I went to a Catholic school, but we when I think about it, it's funny when I look back. But like I said, I love to draw, right? So I would copy what's already drawn, and I would, go back and forth and make it almost as close as I could make it to look like what it was. And so I had been doing that all the time. The other kids were doing their things too, which I thought were phenomenal. But the teacher went around and said these two, this me and this boy in the class, his name was Tristan, that we were the artists in the class. And she made it seem very clear that nobody else was. And I didn't speak up, but I remember looking at, I don't remember who it was sitting next to me, but they were painting a purple tree. And I don't know what their sign was or anything like that, but all I noticed was that they were thinking outside of the box. I didn't know what outside of the box meant then, but I thought, oh, because I was always trying so hard to get it exactly like this. So I knew right away that creativity is not the skill. I mean, the skill can be put to anything from music, writing, painting, a zillion things, cooking, gardening, and on and on, but it's the creativity is being able to like let something new come into your mind and bring it forward where it had never been before in whatever way that is. And I didn't know the words around it, but at that time I made a decision that everyone was creative. I knew it, just knew it, and that what I needed was something that was outside of me, which I didn't know how to quite get there. I didn't know how to get to the purple tree. And it actually took me a while to kind of un untrain myself, if you will, right? So to find that creativity is there for us within us in every expression that we have, and it doesn't have to be perfected drawing, and it doesn't have to be flashy or anything like that. It just has to be from you to make it unique. And you can do it all with three colors, you can do it
Right.
with one color, right? You could do it with a poem, a few words, a haiku, but also just waking up and getting dressed in the morning. And the reason that I think it's more important now as I've gotten older, well, probably about 20 years now, I've been really focused on sharing creativity with everyone that I know as a means to create change. And particularly for Earth is where I focused. Um, but also, with abused, I worked with the Long Red Line and did um, a few different things with them, but one main one was a big gallery exhibit with over 100 pieces of art. And it was to let people know that whatever that is that they want to express is their ability to make a difference in the world. And I also think, and this may be controversial a bit, but I don't care about that too much anymore, but it's taking creativity out of the classroom and things like that, or even just pointing to certain people as artists and leaving everyone else out. Those type of things are the ways of entrainment, like that I realize now after learning much more about our human psyche and the world and control and all of that type of thing. But if you don't feel that you're a creative person, then you're going to be a better follower.
Right. Right. Totally. I
And
love this.
that's kind of where it comes from me, is like it makes us a better follower if we don't know. And as soon as we realize that we're creative, that you can create change.
Right. It took me a long time. For me in college, I still was going after the art path. And I had a situation in my first oil painting class. This guy was the model. He runs in, he whips off his cape and he sits down right in front of me. He's nude. Well, I had a flashback to my grandfather's studio and I was like
Mhm.
frozen, but I didn't have the words then because I
Mhm.
hadn't started therapy. I didn't know anything,
Yeah,
and so then I didn't paint for 12 years.
yeah.
And so there's those kinds of things for people, and for me, it right now, it's about stepping out and sharing my story, my art, my ideas, because they're valuable.
Mhm.
And I think that's what I'm hoping to bring in these conversations, like how you're talking about creativity is beautiful, because I always say everyone is creative. Same
Mhm.
thing, because we just show it in different ways, and but
Mhm.
we need to come together in a community to share these ideas so that, and there is no wrong idea. I think that's the other idea with out of the box thinking, that just because we didn't do it before doesn't make it's wrong. It's a new idea and we have to play them out. So thank you.
Mhm.
I would
Mhm.
love to have a little conversation about, you were named Essence of the Forest by the Maori people. Can you tell us about that, what it means to you? And I know you have another award you just got, so we'll talk about that next.
Yeah, well, they're called initiation, so it's not really an award, but it's
Okay.
um the first one with the Maori. I spent about a week and a half with the Maori people, and there was a few others, women and a few other men who were kind of gathered together and brought together in Nevada. And we were asked, but we were invited. And then we were asked if we wanted to be initiated as the 12 women around for the water, speaking for the water, and the 9 men, which is the circle of the male, persona, let's just say, that is holding and supporting that feminine energy. And so I said yes, and with a couple other people that I knew, and we spent that time learning, out in nature and learning to communicate with the waters and the forests and um, learning to do ceremony and learning the ways that the Maori did it and hearing the stories of New Zealand and how the bird language was the first language. One of the most interesting things that I learned with them. And that was beautiful. I was so honored to do that. And then we all came together and did a worldwide synchronized water blessing in 2016, which I did here at Maine East. I mean, not Maine East. I had my class reunion last week, and so I was thinking about my high
In your
school.
mind, yes.
Yeah, no, at Northeastern College. And there's a man there, Dan Creeley, who has been the fire keeper there since for 30 years. And all of the elders around the world, all the indigenous elders, have came to that fire and blessed it with him. And I asked him if I could do the ceremony with him, and that's where we did the first one in Chicago. This through him, actually, I met grandmother Susan. One of the people I met is grandmother Susan Stanton, and we've now been friends for, 10 years or so, and done a lot of different things with her. And I've been bringing her into our community. Community is very important to me as far as kind of uniting, and the power that we have together. So I brought her to our local library just a couple weeks ago, and she spoke. We spoke together, but she was the main speaker for about over 100 people. I don't know exactly how many were there, and she surprised me by initiating me as a water walker on stage. Um, through the time that I've been with her, and I'm still working that out, finding out what the place is of it. She hasn't given me a name yet. The Maoris give you a presentation during the initiation, and there's a whole thing, and there's water involved, and the particular stone that they give you, and then they give you a name, and they gave me the name of Essence of the Forest, which was even before I worked for Tree Sisters. So it was sort of like the next year I started working as the artist liaison and community engagement coordinator for Tree Sisters.
Why don't you
So it's
explain
kind
what
of
Tree
a
Sisters is?
Tree Sisters is an organization that's reforesting the planet. I think upwards of 40 million trees have been planted now in the tropics. And we plant the native trees in those areas. But the more important part, I think it's very ethical. All the process is ethical that we go through. And we work with the community. And it's mainly the mothers who are kind of doing that type of thing, so they need a certain amount of trees for fruit that they might want to eat or go sell at the market. But we train them to take care of the forest and also to have something to give back for firewood, for fruiting trees, all those type of things. And we try to work with them as much as we can. We ask them what they need. It was really wonderful working there. And the marketing idea, the reason why I was drawn to it was because it wasn't your flash market, you know, come on, get it, well, buy a tree, whatever. It was through art and poetry.
All right, talk a little
And
bit more. Explain how that works together, the art and the poetry and the tree planting, and explain a little bit
yeah,
more.
well, there's a lot of different artists around the world who are doing earth art, something that's being expressed. It feels like it's an expression from earth, which is what I believe it is. And when you see an image or you read a poem, it touches you at a different level than anything else can. It goes right into your soul. And it's kind of a awakening of your soul and your purpose. And so, you know, just women and men, but mainly women came together to support our organization from all over the world and hundreds of thousands and
Wow,
hundreds.
that is so cool.
So that was one of my jobs was to work with the artists. So I would look for new art and artists and get to know them and then invite them to become artist partners with us and have them part of our events and but also our marketing was always art. It was beautiful. It wasn't just bright colors drawing your eye in. It was actually hand painted art or and then we got to know a lot of musicians and musicians are doing things for planting trees now at their concerts and yeah, just so much. So much I could
Wow,
say.
that's a lot. I mean, your resume is quite extensive. So I do want to talk about, you've led, you've done murals in jails and all over, your singing tree work. Can you explain a little bit for those who don't know what the singing tree is and their work and explain that?
Yes, yes, I'd love to. I'm on the board of uh, Unity Through Creativity, which is also encapsulates the Singing Tree mural project that Lori started years ago. I don't even know how many years ago, but it's like 30, I think. And the project is to go in to any really communal setting, schools, hospitals, communities. And also, there's been 75 different countries that um, singing tree murals have been done. And what it is a way to come together. So it's a co-creative project that you facilitate. You know, if you're a facilitator like I am, you would go in, you'd bring the group together, like, and everybody's ideas would be counted. Like, what do we want this mural to be about? What do we want to say in this mural? What pieces are meaningful for you, for the organization, for the mission of the group, right? And so there's story upon story about that has made such big changes in organizations, in towns. In Cyprus, they did something in the town hall, I believe, in Cyprus, and they're going to be working in Ireland soon. But they've been all over the world. They're doing big projects with in Japan, and so that's all about, you know, what do you want to create? But it was kind of born out of the piece, you know, like unity, coming together, peacefulness. How can we do that in an environment? And that actually really is a way of expressing yourself without training.
Right. I mean,
Um,
I participated during COVID on one where I had to make leaves or something for a singing tree and send it
mhm.
to Lori. You know, there are so many ways to participate in creativity and to make a difference because it is a vision and it becomes a collective vision when you create your tree because they've covered all different topics, you know,
Right.
whether it's violence in a community or there was one place, I can't remember, they did one on sex trafficking. I mean, what is your community? What are your challenges? And how can you build and make a difference and create
Yeah.
this collaborative piece, which says a lot. You know, when you have
Yeah.
so many people working on it, it's that energy that spreads out one person to the next. There's a ripple effect.
Absolutely. And it connects that team or those people on a deeper level too, so that you know, they may have been working well together, but they always work better together afterwards. And, you know, with the Singing Tree mural, I'm right now looking into working with Lurie Children's Museum in Chicago to
Ooh,
work with the Children's Museum I'm at the museum, the hospital, to, you know, to put a mural together that helps them to understand their journeys, you know, whether it be with cancer or, you know, whatever that may be. Since my daughter has had cancer this past year and a half, and my mom has had a stroke, and I spent a lot of time in the hospitals. And so I'm like, well, you know, maybe this is the next place. So I started talking to them a couple weeks ago. And I've done murals in the jails, which I'm going to be going back to do soon again, and working with the inmates, the women and the men. And there, the Singing Tree Project is, you know, the way that I worked with them is a lot of them had never painted at all, or, you know, they remembered maybe possibly using crayons.
yeah.
And so we had to start where they were at.
Mhm.
But I asked them each to put in there, what do they want this mural to be about? And that each one of them has a piece of it and a part of it. And then we named it, like we made the title cover all of that. And so it was bringing them together. And that was really wonderful. I did 5 with them so far. And
Fabulous. Very
changed, the
exciting.
group changed, you know, really the dynamics of
Art does that. I believe it in all forms. Yes. So thank you. So we're getting close to our time. So um, how can people get a hold of you? So
Mm.
if somebody wants to volunteer for this project that you're going to do at Lurie's, how can they get
Oh,
hold of you?
well, you know, my website is brigidina.com, and that's Brigidina. My email is art@brigidina.com.
Thank you.
And those are 2 ways, you know, you can look at some of the project stuff and photographs are on there. And then on my website, you can reach out to me over Facebook too. I'm on Facebook as Kathleen Brigidina, and messenger. So
Perfect.
I
Perfect.
try to
Thank
make
you.
myself pretty open. I run the Nature's Well of Creativity Facebook group, and we have that been together for over 10 years, and there's almost 2,000 artists, musicians, writers,
I love it.
and crafters. So
So, what are you dreaming into next? And how could somebody support you in your work, even if they don't want to do the art or something, or what would you say to them?
yeah, whatever brings you joy, and kind of use that as your compass, and just following your joy and not being afraid, and everything is a little step at a time, and knowing that we are protected and that we're safe, and to try to just enjoy yourself. And then when you find that you're enjoying something, you'll know you're probably on the right path. And call and talk to me if you want. I coach people who are finding their creativity, and I have an intuitive practice where I sort of sense into what people may be needing, what's coming through them, because I've been doing this for so long that
Right.
it's sort of natural.
Oh, thank you. Kathleen, I appreciate your wisdom, your devotion to creativity, to people, to the earth. Your story is a great reminder of creativity isn't a luxury, it's a lifeline. It's a language all its own, and it can change anything and everything. So we honor your journey. And if you'd like to join the Creative Activists Turning Pain to Purpose, our movement, we'd love that, because my goal is to create a global community of 1 million creative activists around the globe. Anybody who is doing things to make the world better, especially to end violence against women and children. That's my passion. And so thank you, because one survivor speaks, others find the strength to rise and to share their story. And together we create a world what future generations deserve. When Kathleen's talking about her daughters, I talk about my granddaughters. They deserve something better than what we have right now. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. I so appreciate you, Kathleen. Thank you.
Thank you.